Well, good afternoon, good evening, bienvenidos, one and all. You're here today for Cultivating Voices live poetry. And if it's the second Sunday of the month, which it is, you're here today for our new books showcase. And today we have a beautiful constellation of poets. We'll be featuring today Carla M. Cherry, D. Allen, Dorsia Smith Silva, and Mary Oishi, all with their new collections published within the last year. That's what a new book means to us here at Cultivating Voices Live Poetry. I want to thank everyone last week who was here with us for our Poets Focus on I and I. I really felt because of the times that we're in, although we're always in the time where we need to bear witness, I thought that featured word or two words was particularly resonant. Thank you to everyone, our featured readers, Indrana Mirthanayagam and Linda V.E. Crawford, who joined all of you on the open mic. It was really a very poignant and powerful reading, as I know today's reading will be as well. Well, I'm your host, Sandy Yannone. Very, very happy to be with you and very grateful to be with you during these times. I want to just say something about as a person who lives in the United States, we are an international, intersectional, intergenerational poetry group of over 5,000 members since March of 2020 when we began. And this week in particular, I was thinking about back in March of 2020, when my sister and I were looking to see if there were any open mics online as things were closing down because of the pandemic. We could find only two when we started to look in early March, probably the second week of March. We found Kai Coggin's Wednesday Night Poetry out of Hot Springs, Arkansas, which is the longest continuous weekly open mic in the United States. And out of Limerick, Ireland, Not the Time to Be Silent. Well, I've been really thinking about Not the Time to Be Silent, which is now called Lime Square Poets, and the power of its name. Hosts Siobhan Potter and Dor Cipher, as well as the original host, Kathy Carson, knew the tragedy that isolation silence would bring. And that and I've been thinking now about that silence. And in the United States, with a person in the White House and then an administration that is really hell-bent on destruction, telling people that back then they were telling people that science didn't matter and to drink bleach, among other lies and deceptions and evil speak. But the evildoers were just really beginning to flex their muscles and build body mass. And people in the United States, with help globally, pushed back enough to staunch a rising tide of misinformation that literally produced, in my opinion, state-sanctioned genocide and a global shutdown. This current wave feels like tsunami strength to me, hell-bent on annihilation of everything except the 1%. And even some of them will prove expendable. But among these things, our voices must be our actions, constant and relentless. This is still not the time to be silent. We, all of the people, all of us, must rise and speak to become what I believe needs to be the fourth branch of government that we always have been, and hold accountability where in the United States or in any other country, constitution or whatever version of that exists, where we need to be the checks and balances, particularly when governing is not functioning and is due to particularly a dismantling of the rule of law. So I want to thank all of the folks on different lines on all the different lines, speaking out, not staying silent, on behalf of ourselves, of each other, and people we don't know, and all the people that they support. It's a deep, deep ripple effect. Well, with that, I want to turn today to our four readers. I know that all of them in their unique way speak truth to power, not the time to be silent. We're going to get incredible, incredible poetry medicine today. The chat is live, my friends. Please send your appreciation, love, respect through the chat. And of course, we will be populating the links to the Poets Presses for you to purchase their latest collection as well as their websites. And please do, to the degree possible within your means, support the poets and their presses. Well, our first reader today, I was saying in in the pre-show green room, Carla M. Cherry had been with us for a new book showcase, we believe in 2021, when we go back to back to the archives. And I was saying, her poetry had really, really carried me through when I had read her books, and I found them very prescient and much needed as we were in the depths of the pandemic. So to have her be able to return with her latest collection is is a real joy and uplift for me personally. Well, Carla M. Cherry's work has appeared in various publications, including Random Sample Review, Anti-Heroin Chic, 433, La Libretta, Isil, and Raising Mothers. She is a Best of the Net and Pushcart Prize nominee, and she's authored 6 books of poetry. Gnat Feathers and Butterfly Wings, $30 and a bowl of soup. I really love the cover of that in particular. Honeysuckle Me, These Pearls Are Real, and Stardust and Skin. And 2 chapbooks, Clap Your Hands, Stomp Your Feet from Grandma Moses Press, and Sundays and Hot Buttered Rolls, a granddaughter of Harlem Speaks from Finishing Line Press. Her most recent book is May He Bless My Name, and she holds an MFA in creative writing from the City College of New York. Welcome so much, Carla.
Thank you, Sandy. I'm so excited to be here, and I'm really excited to hear the work of Dee and Dorsia and Mary. So, I am going to read some poems from my latest book, May He Bless My Name. It came out last year. The 1 year anniversary is coming up. So I'm going to share some selections from it. So thank you so much. The first poem is called In the Beginning. Daddy picks up Wally and Mommy from Wally's house off Bruckner Boulevard, drives them to the party in Westbury. Records spinning. Daddy invites Mommy to dance. Are you going with anybody? He asks Mommy for her number. She is shy. Daddy calls her twice, charms her into a Nancy Wilson concert. He wears a sports jacket. She usually sews her clothes, but that night she wears a white blouse, red linen miniskirt, and low heels from Bloomingdale's. They had some nice stuff back then, she says now. My miniskirt wasn't like the ones they have now where you can see every crease. Mommy in a miniskirt? This woman who only wore A-line skirts and dresses all my life? At the concert, she notices a funny odor and asks, "What's that smell?" Daddy shushes her, whispers it is marijuana. Mom and I snicker. Never touched it myself. I'm as square as my parents. Did you hold hands? No. I don't know. Are you serious? I'm 82 years old. That was in 1968. She forgets all that remains of his life before her is his photo album from the Air Force. Did Grandma like him? What about Uncle Bobby, Uncle Ralph, Uncle Reggie, Uncle Don? I don't know. They were probably all in the service at the time. My mother went to the door when he rang the bell. She kept looking up and couldn't see his head. We laugh. Daddy was 6'3". Did he bring flowers? No. She pauses. One time we were at his parents' house, and he played Wes Montgomery's A Day in the Life. I loved it so much, I had him play it 3 times. Did you kiss at the end of your date? I guess. I don't know. We didn't do nothing, she says. Until the wedding night. I know, I know. Wonder. Even we nerdy fifth grade girls pass around, "Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret," at lunch. We must increase our bust. We rock back and forth with laughter. I almost choke on my pizza. Thank God for Judy Bloom. She helps me understand why I squeezed my chest with my hands into the shape of a bosom when I was 8. Why I twirled in the mirror with the training bras mommy bought when I was 9. My first kiss, age 10, with M in the back seat. Soft pressing peck while our mothers shopped for groceries. I daydream first dates. But the afternoon of the Bloody Mire when I am 12, I cry in mommy's arms over the cottony bulk between my hips. What must be done each month with my calendar. How heavy boy crushes have become. I plead for the backward march of time. Admonition. Before I leave for college, our family doctor, a conscious Black woman who insists Donna and I get tested for HIV so we are safe and informed, must have seen her 18-year-old self as I sit on her examination table. After she listens to my heart and lungs, shows me how to examine my breast for lumps, asks her nurse to draw my blood, tells me to eat fresh pineapple to clear up my skin real pretty. She waves one manicured index finger. Don't get pregnant while you're in school. Destiny. Thin, soft-spoken, light brown-skinned, thin-rimmed glasses, a small hoop in his left ear. After he performs his poem, he announces a poetry group, Young African Writers Collective, invites people to take down his number and call if we want to attend. A couple of weeks later, I meet him outside the Edgewood MARTA stop. We sit on the steps. Knee to knee we share. My freeze, tag, hopscotch, double dutch days in New York City. He is a Georgia boy, born in Indiana. Summers with his father in Germany. Our love of books. He loves John Updike. I love Toni Morrison. That diagonal shift of his gaze, shy like me. First few meetings, it is just us two. Magnetic field between our eyes, our smiles. I am a faithful member. I sit on the floor of his grandmother's basement. He invites me to sit next to him on the sofa. His fingers make a pathway to the underside of my knees. Kisses. Blow. Mouths in slow skids, fingers map making, limbs unlocking and locking in labor. Train, tunnel, cooling like rain, me ashamed of the sound we make against the floor. We each pet the sheet to avoid the passion pond. Oh, how we shatter silence into shards of glass. Plans. My credits for my degree, my thesis completed. I could have stayed home after Christmas break. Not knowing what to do next with my life, not ready to spin off from my college circle, I returned for spring semester of senior year. In my free time, I am in flexuous tangle with him, in hip to hip, synchronous sway, hitting guitar riff high notes. Sade's Cherish the Day. Wisp. We four, between 10 and 13 years old, concrete stoop beneath our denim-clad bottoms, slurps cherry, orange, lime popsicles, toss around our dreams for the future like yo-yos. 7, they exclaim when I announce the number of children I want to have. Girly giggles. I will go to college, I say, marry at 22, and soon after, my husband and I will have a baby every 2 years until we achieve my magic number. We will be young enough to keep up with or understand our boy, then girl, then girl, then boy, then boy, then girl, then boy. They will be fast friends, book brilliant, quick-handed if anyone bothers their siblings. We will be done raising them by our mid-50s. A big family, steaming bowls of soul, laughter around a long dining table. Somebody close to your age is always around to confide in. But when I am 21, in January 1993, what I want most is for my period to come. Petition. For all of January, I flipped pages in my calendar. Hope I circled the wrong December day. For extra luck, I stopped wearing pads, alternate my two favorite pairs of jeans, beseech God for a brook or river of blood to ooze, gush, spate, a ruinous red stain. In the light. February 2nd, 1993. My not quite boyfriend drives us to a free clinic. The counselor gives me a pregnancy test. She smiles at us as we wait, confirms what I know from 2 weeks of cramps, pads that remain unstained white. He smiles back at her, holds my hand. A burst of white light behind my eyes, at the nape of my neck. Stirrings of a soul tie. My hands cradle my belly. It must be why she says, I won't show you the video. I thank her for sparing me gore of shredded fetal limbs. Despite the days I've cried in secret over where and when and how I will find a job, where I will live, how to tell my mother and father, I know at that white light I'm going to keep my baby. We go to a cafe. I am smiling. I wrap a cup of lemony tea and honey in the womb of my hands. Smacked. At the cafe, our kneecaps kiss under the table. Whiz wheel of hope spins in my chest. Hold my hand again. Tell me we three will be a family. He says he will send me money. Our child can spend summers with him, but he cannot commit to coupledom. Pride compels the corners of my mouth upward, beats back the question, what have I been to you all this time? Coerces and I understand aloud. To the gathering waters in my eyes, my inner voice commands, peace, be still. Okay, so I just have two more poems, and this next one is called With Good Fortune. It's called Nocturnal Lagophthalmos. Kari's eyes are half open as he sleeps. When we visit Cousin James and Cousin Vivian, Cousin Vivian asks, was he born with a caul? Down south, they called it a veil. Those children can see and speak to ghosts, tell the future. There is no way I can know, I say. Cousin Vivian shakes her head, says, and wouldn't it be just like them to see a Black child born with magic, keep it a secret from his half-asleep mother who is flat on her back and can't see what is happening past her belly? And the last poem I'm going to share is called We Three Were Water. July 13, 2013. Before today's protest at Union Square about Trayvon, I sent one of the coordinators a Facebook message. My son wants to attend the march you announced. Under the circumstances, I do not want him to go. Terrified for him living in America. Please let him come, he writes, please. Does your son do any public speaking? He should speak today for a few minutes about what he is feeling. I reply, He is 19 and swears he is going, but despite my objections. How do I know the NYPD won't crack heads? I'm so scared. Black people aren't respected anywhere. I am a black mother of a son. Don't know what to do anymore. He does not answer. What reassurance could he, as a black man, offer anyway? My mother, my sister, and I surround Kari as he laces his sneakers. No, don't go, we cry. The cops are already feeling some type of way. We three were water, corroding his steely will. Children younger than Kari, the sons and daughters of our foreparents, had their own D-Day, May 2nd, 1963. 4,000 Black youth in Birmingham, knowing they could be arrested, marched out of their segregated high schools, congregated at 16th Street Baptist Church before they marched downtown, and bullies with badges and biting dogs and fire hoses knocked them down and arrested them by the hundreds. Birmingham desegregated. And then Annie Mae, Cynthia, Carol, and Carol Denise, victims of vengeance. College students sat straight backed and still at segregated lunch counters while bigots shouted, poured drinks or ketchup on top of them, pushed them off their chairs. Freedom riders signed their last wills and testaments before they boarded the buses. The parents of Dorothy Counts pulled her out of Harry Harding High School after 4 days of screaming mobs, rocks thrown, and landing mostly at her feet, boys spitting in her food at lunch, and the white girls were forced to withdraw offers of friendship. At least the Counts had let their daughter try. With George Zimmerman free, America has neither ears nor eyes for a Black mother's heartache, will not avenge our rage if a baton bashes Kari in the head, across his back or legs, apply salve to soothe his wrists if he is handcuffed. So we shackle him with our words and fears. I have so often seen Black and white photos of Black men carrying signs, I am a man. Kari was declaring the same. Who was I raising him to be? Thank you.
Wow, that last poem. Oh, we three were water. Wow. It's very interesting you bring up Trayvon Martin because at the end of the program, I was going to bring up Trayvon Martin. I was going to mention some books, and one of them is this book of poetry and protest. It came out a while ago, but it's so important from Emmett Till to Trayvon Martin. I'll mention it again at the end of the program. But I also wanted to say, Carla, your poems, well, of course, when you brought up Judy Blume, like the visceralness of our women's bodies and what our women's bodies do. And I was thinking about just this morning reading on Facebook how um or Meta, whatever, that that the mention of tampons, breast pumps, and panties are like banned now or something. And I'm like, oh, you misogynist, you misogynist. Like, where do you think, where do you think you came from? You came from, women's bodies that bleed, that do things. It's messy, like let's write about it and yeah, I mean, so I so appreciate because it was so much in the forefront of mine. And then you just went for things that were like in the forefront. Trayvon, and so many others. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Um, the book is May He Bless My Name, along with all her other books. That's Carla M. Cherry. Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, our next reader, D. Allen. I mean, to call Allen a reader, I don't know why I'm saying readers. Actually, these folks today are like performers, really performers. Yeah, I know I read, but that's not what Deanne does. It's not what Carla did. That's what I know. It's not what Dorsia or Mary does. Um, But when I first heard D. Allen share his poetry online, it was during the first year of the pandemic. I can't remember the venue that I was at, to be honest. It might have been something out, it might have been an online out of San Francisco. I was, I was, I was going to say dumbstruck. I was struck by the power of his words, his ability to speak truth to power, put history in its place, put the past, the present, and the future in the alignments that they needed to be in integrity with all the peoples of the planet and the planet itself to be in harmony and integrity, which we are so out of alignment with. And that's what D. Allen's work does, has been doing since the very first time I've heard him, every subsequent time, and in every publication that he's produced since. So I'm always very grateful when he is able to join us on Cultivating Voices live poetry. He has a unmis unmistakable way of presenting, of sharing um, his necessary messages that I believe we all need to hear. So again, I'm so grateful to have Dee with us on the program today. Well, Dee Allen is an African Italian performance poet from Oakland, California. And next time I'm down there, I definitely have to meet you in person if possible. Um, Dee is active on creative writing and spoken word platforms since the early 1990s and is the author of 10 books: Boneyard, Unwritten Law, Stormwater, Skeletal Black, Rusty Gallows, Eloi Unici, Passages Against Hate, Plain, and Crimson Stain. It's just like getting a little choked up as I was thinking about the different books of his I've read. His newest collection, Discovery, was published by Southern Arizona Press in April of 2024. So indeed, the 1 year anniversary is on the horizon here. And The Mansion was just published in 2025 by Gnashing Teeth Publishing. Dee has accumulated 77 anthology appearances under his figurative belt so far, and he now will be belting out some of his work for us today. Thank you so much, Dee, for being with us.
Kimport Parsons, Tonii.
We'll help you out. We'll help you out.
They found a rare Southern girl and made her the center of attention. Discovery. Excerpt. Patrolling the street on the Brooklyn beat wasn't enough for Jerry Tibbs. The married NYPD officer on some days would shed his dark blue uniform and wore the sable one he was born with. Just a man enjoying his spare time. His busy hands worked the camera. On Coney Island's sandy white beach, he found her, a Southern transplant curious about her new northern home. His eyes saw a model in her straight away. His clicking Kodak truly loved her from the start. Stance per stance, pick per pick, Tibbs' work seemed ready to be shown. Then again, he thought something had to be done about his subject's already movie star looks. Jerry Tibbs talked her into wearing shortcut bangs with her long ebony hair. Cass Carr took her picture again and again, and they sold well in Manhattan nightclubs. And the shutterbugs and the barflies, they knew why. The playful pale lady many have seen, cracking a whip like a dom, tied with rope like a sub, taking a bubble bath in vibrant color, dancing seductively with her partner, a stuffed clown doll in grainy black and white, splashing happily in water on Miami Beach shore, gracing men's magazine covers dressed in a leopard print skirt, or her famous black lingerie and nylons. Men back then wanted to date her. Women right now want to emulate her. Betty Page, Queen of Curves, would have never lived that title without being guided in the right direction by two black men, count them, two black men, virtually unknown, totally unsung. Two models. Game recognizes game. Popular saying used in some Black people's conversations, normally blurted out when one sees their best qualities in another. Example given. Back in the 1950s, a Florida cheesecake model didn't want to limit herself to being before flashing cameras, so she switched positions. The camera was in her hands for a change. The amateur photographer of this tale, let's call her Bunny, was found by her other self, a New York City model visiting Miami on holiday. Let's call that one Betty. Leather corsets and knee-high stiletto heel boots were kept out of those photo shoots. Bunny believed that the female form could stand on its own, and that was no lie, considering the sometimes pinup had Manhattan's reigning pinup queen Betty to work with, potential bestseller, who could flex into any pose in many guises, a housewife, a vixen, a splashing beach bunny, a female Tarzan in leopard skin, a fisherwoman on a boat reeling in her catch in the raw, decorating a small Christmas tree with just a Santa hat and a wink. Game recognizes game. Rest in peace, Miss Bunny Yeager, and rest in peace, Miss Betty Page. Two models. Neon Cross. Armand Carlisle Walterson couldn't dance a step, and he didn't bother trying. His new bride, Betty, wanted to go dancing on New Year's Eve, 1958. Neither of the two could agree on a damn thing. All Armand wanted to do was stay home, eat hamburgers, and watch TV. A creature of routine and no ambition. This picture of matrimony contradicted Betty's dreams of Key West life with her younger groom. She left the house in tears, knowing this was the end for the newlywed couple, this last argument, suburban fantasy curtain call. Her face, a lachrymose mask, the starry sky above, smeared blotches of light against black, released in sobs, her regret. What a way to spend the approach of 1959. Walking along the beach and White Street, lonely and blue. Her attention was drawn to a familiar emblem, the very sight of a bright neon cross on a church roof. To Betty, it seemed her Lord took her by the hand, guided her across the street into the sanctuary, led into full pews, choir singing. The preacher calling on his congregation forward to repent for Jesus Christ, the front pulpit, and her eventual salvation. Neon cross. Resident. Not a native, but a resident of my corner of East Oakland, where poverty dominates, where broke on broke crime is as natural as drawing breath into lungs. There's more cars and SUVs broken into by unknown parties than not. More fenced off pieces of land and liquor stores than they are community centers and decent food shops. The homeless sleep against boarded up buildings, empty inside as the price of housing continues to soar past the clouds. Drugs and black market guns are always available, have been available. 5 decades of strung out black bodies and black bodies shot from petty disputes write that history. Where the criminal image, the thug agenda is praised, where I fear the enemy, and the enemy is my own. Believe me, I didn't design this madness. I'm not a native, but a resident of my corner of East Oakland, where poverty dominates, but its effects are being relieved. Mutual aid is not a theory here. It's hitting the street running, seeing to a long queue of people, families in need, alleviating hunger, thirst, human health. Mutual aid for the block takes several forms. Black Cultural Zone, Occur, East Oakland Collective, Homies Empowerment, Poe Magazine. These days, the working class around here are supporting themselves since the city won't. Downtown City Hall sees my place of residence as a blemish on the east side in need of change. Just remove the Poe from homes, rename the block, welcome richer residents in. Like I said, I didn't design this madness, but as long as I'm here from my little house, I'll document it. I'm not a native, but a resident of my corner of the changing Bay Area. Eastmont, Oakland, California, USA, where I'm from. Resident. Not every mansion is a playground for the wealthy. The mansion. Excerpt. After the meeting ended, I met the stranger Salim described. Tall man, afro, dark blue trench. My first friend in San Francisco, Rollo. Almost stray dog style, I followed Rollo to a bus stop between Geary and Van Ness, and we entered through the back door of the crowded number 38. My first Muni bus ride. Disembarked at Geary and Fillmore. Entered Japantown, left on Fillmore, trot 3 blocks north, left on Sutter. Dark driveway, chain link fence swung open, enter side door to an Edwardian Gothic wreck nearly 100 years old, closed to the public for unspecified years. Rollo led me up a spiral staircase in the pitch black outdoors. Second floor. A long, piercing strip of halogen light lacerated utter darkness. Rollo and I met Salim and Catherine with his mag light Celine gave Catherine and I an impromptu tour through this large, archaic house of yet to be questioned history. Basement, frightening but huge. First floor, save for one lived in, empty rooms. Kitchen with a functional stove and refrigerator. Third floor, spacious attic, 3 rooms unclaimed. Back to second floor. Catherine, somewhat frightened, decided not to stay. Being new in town, I stayed. Besides, where else was I going to go? Celine provided me with a couple of tattered blankets in a room, personal inner sanctum. No door, no locked, one window boarded up, one window intact. I laid down my backpack and suitcase in that ice cold bedroom, kept my caramel brown leather trench on, took off my black leather Timberlands, crawled under both tattered blankets, snacked on a chocolate croissant, and thought on the way to needed sleep. This squat, any squat, the solution to homelessness is right here. And that was an excerpt from the title poem of my new and 10th book, The Mansion, Liberated Zones Inside the Controlled Inner City, now available from Gnashing Publishing. From this mic to your ears, I'm D. Allen. Thanks for listening.
That is D. Allen, the one and only D. Allen. It is always, always, always a revelation to listen to your words, to my ears, to my heart, and hopefully to my humanity, to just keep doing the work, just keep doing the work.
How much time do I have left, or did I use it all?
You actually have like 3 minutes left. Do you want to do another poem?
Okay.
Yeah, let's do another.
I want to see what the public thinks.
Okay.
I want to see what the folks in this Zoom room think of all this. How many of y'all want to hear one more from me? I want to either show some hands, or for those who got their screens blacked out, press the reactions button for hand up. I want to see it. Cool. We have most hands up and thumbs up, so I'm going to do another one.
Yes.
And that requires me to use the share screen feature one more time.
No problem.
And let me click out of this pic and go to this one. For those of y'all who are old enough to remember her movies, her early ones anyway, many of y'all know who this is. And this last poem happens to be about her. From Discovery, pages 138 to 139 in the book. This is called Foxy. You never forget your first infatuation. Mine's was the big thing decades before other honeys entered the picture. Soul cinema action queen, did her own stunts, did her own afro, wasted no time kicking ass on the big screen. First of her kind, the baddest one chick hit squad that ever hit town. Mine's had no issues getting grindhouse seats and balconies filled on Saturday nights in the 1970s. She made the scene as Coffee, Friday Foster, Sheba Baby, Foxy, super bad out of sight. Was a rebellious prisoner, 3 flicks straight. The Big Dollhouse, The Big Birdcage, Black Mama, White Mama. Foxy, super bad out of sight. Battled the Romans in the arena as the gladiatrix Mamawi, stuck it to the man in Bucktown and Foxy Brown. Foxy, super bad out of sight. She booted down the dough so many more could pass through. Tamara Dobson, Teresa Graves, Gloria Hendry, Jeannie Bell, Vanessa McGee, Jane Kennedy. Foxy, super bad out of sight. Her deep brown eyes met the male gaze from pictures, seemed to say, you can look at me, but respect me or else. Of course, I was a small, twiggy boy, the starving Biafran, as my cousins called me, when all this happened. Black America had a stone cold love Jones for that foxy, mocha tough mama from the movies, and I was no ways immune. You never forget your first celebrity crush. Have no fear, Pam Grier is here. Foxy, forever. I
Oh,
had I had to slip that one in for official Black History Month, but I got
that's
different ideas about that.
I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did. And here's the line. You can look at me, but respect me or else. Or else.
That's the vibe I always got
That,
from Pam Grier in any of her photos or movies.
I mean,
No lie.
that's what I mean, it has to be a very, very difficult profession to have the gaze at you all the time, right? Like it has to be. And yeah, and how do they speak back? How do they speak back?
Yeah,
I
how do they do it?
How do they do it? And I love that you gave voice. Betty Page, Pam Grier, great. Like that's the book is Discovery, everybody, and also the new book, The Mansion. It's the one and only D. Allen. I look forward to seeing you next time, wherever it is. Thank you so much, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you for 5 years of fandom and your friendship. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to promote two new books.
It's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure. Well, my gosh, today, wow. Mm, yeah. I appreciate Dee bringing up Black History Month, of course. Yeah, Black History Month. And, we try to bring folks on the program, everybody, all year long, different, we're about that. So, appreciate that we are here today with these poets during Black History Month, and I appreciate them being with us all year round as well. Well, our next poet, Dorsia Smith Silva, I was saying again in the green room, or the Zoom green room, I call it, I had the most amazing, amazing experience of listening to Dorsia read her poetry and as well as talk about like her writing process and as a sort of counter to the usual narratives that we hear about like being in workshop, getting the MFA and having this like prescribed path. Well, nobody here today on our program actually has like had that prescribed path. Like so and often they don't here on the program. So I feel like you are an exceptional company. And folks, if you want to hear that interview, maybe we'll get it and drop it in the chat. I'll try to do that. It was on Poet Talk out of UMass Amherst in December, in mid-December. So really, it was an amazing introduction to you and your work. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that I had that opportunity. And then so soon after to be able to hear Dorsia's work here on our program today. Well, Dorsia Smith Silva is the author of in Inheritance of Drowning from CavanKerry in 2024, which was a finalist for the Whirling Prize and reviewed by Publishers Weekly. She is an 8-time Pushcart Prize nominee, Best of the Net finalist, Best New Poets nominee, and Cave Canem Poetry Prize semifinalist, Obsidian Fellow, poetry editor at the Hopper, and a full professor of English at the University of Puerto Rico, Rio Piedras. Literary Hub, Poets.org, and the Los Angeles Review have published her work, and her poems are forthcoming in the Eco Poetry Anthology, Volume 2, the Cimarron Review, and Beloit Poetry Journal. Would you please welcome Dorsia Smith Silva?
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Sandy. Thank you so much for having me here. And thank you also to Kim. Thank you. Make my heart feel so, overwhelmed with just full of joy. And thank you to Carla and Dee for those powerful readings. Oh my goodness, wonderful today. And I'm looking forward to Mary as well today. It's just wonderful to be here. As you mentioned, my debut poetry book is called An Inheritance of Drowning. And the book centers Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, which was a devastating hurricane. And it also looks at the racial, social, and political injustices that are happening in the United States. So I'm going to begin with just two hurricane poems. The first poem really looks at our relationship with nature. Sometimes we don't really think about it. We're fighting with it. And when we see what's happening in California with the fires, when we see what's happening as well in the Caribbean, but in Florida, the Carolinas, with hurricane season right now, with the storms happening with winter, we really need to think about being more engaged with nature instead of trying to fight with it. I have a poem in the book that talks about how we should see it as a relative that we like, as kin, and try to work with nature so that we're more in harmony with it, not at the receiving end of being punished by it. So the first poem I'm going to read is called What the Poet is Supposed to Write About a Hurricane. It really gets us thinking about what would happen if we were more in tune with the environment, with nature. What would happen? What the poet is supposed to write about a hurricane should be skylights of horror, not skid rocks of beauty and walls of wind, affixed to the puzzle pieces of the vortex eye, spinning like a lost continent soul. How the lively whip should stun the mouths of gravity, hissing without hesitation, engulfing the stench of uprooted dirt and grass. The poet is supposed to decode the stanzas, shudder the name Maria into frail syllables, to wish a hurricane a fast and gritty death, not say its stubborn slow dances, held intoxicating possibilities and mysteries. The next poem I'm going to read is a poem that talks about the failure of FEMA. I think we're seeing this more and more right now, especially with the fires in California, how after you have a terrible natural disaster, FEMA is supposed to come in and give aid. And instead, FEMA asks you for many forms. FEMA asks you for patience. And it's very hard to have all that patience when you are in need of aid immediately. So this is my experience with FEMA in Puerto Rico. And I'm sure the people in California right now, people that have suffered any kind of natural disaster, can relate to this. It's called Widows. Hurricane Maria made us all widows, but we didn't have to wear black. We were already in mourning, cells bathed in fight or flight, having lost everything to bits in battlefields of wind rain clapping. Then FEMA arrived with a box lunch and an IOU for a prepaid cell phone and debit card, forms to fill out asking for proof of home ownership, bank account, and identification before they would even consider our claims. The governor came with a caravan of camera crews and wanted to hear our stories, not the ones about huddling in a hot shelter with expired rice to eat, but the ones about Puerto Rico being the jewel of the Caribbean, the ones about our towns being open for business. For what can we widows do? Hurricane Maria smashed our prefrontal cortexes to whistles of dead air. It is mentioned that we are props flung against a landmark plot. The newspaper said that we cried. They didn't say that we woke up drowning. I'm now going to move into some more of the political poems in the book. And one that I have in the book that I really do like is called Decussit. And Decussit is a poem about the violence. I think you'll be able to understand the hypocritical nature of the way the United States uses violence and the way it tries to not allow certain people access to having the recourse of when violence is necessary. Decussit. I'm not saying violence isn't wrong, but I understand it. Mrs. Hayes is quick to remind us we should never put our hands on anyone. Violence is never the answer. Then she loads the projector. The film crackles on the screen of muskets and cannons, instruments from a war where the 13 colonies gained their freedom by killing men in red, red like bright breasts of birds, red like big bone leaves on trees. Why couldn't they ask King George for their independence? Carol wants to know. Didn't they ask nicely? The film sputter turned to the Civil War and bombards us with red over blue and gray garments, men getting pummeled and slaves hoping for a quilt work of freedom, slaves that never had a prelude of asking nicely, slaves that swept the dust in breath while masters kneed them dreamless. Mrs. Hayes has her hands on her hips like my own mother. When the guidance counselor told her that I would never get accepted by an Ivy League college, her hands stripping Mr. O'Connor to a bare letter, his hands on my mother's shoulders, and the firm brushing away of fat fingers. The woman's patient chafed her leg, but not her voice. After 2 hours of waiting for the doctor, she screamed and pounded her fist at the counter. The doctor will see you now. The receptionist's eyes widened into black moons, then a buzz to let her through. The rest of us clutching our shell-shot papers. The group of men circled the heart-shaped train rider until she spit-shined a knife and caught a rib. The men dodged like rodeo clowns. I think of my mother, the neighbors when they told their children. They threw stones and dirt into our pool. My mother's tongue slicing them into a stroke ending, her tongue taking the place of fists. Tell us when to see that send to clean when to send the cleanup crew, they said. I understand violence. It starts as the introduction to many wounds. You can press down hard enough if one bleeds. Ayana, Atiana, Brianna, Fred, Malcolm, Martin, Medgar, Sandra, Trayvon, Yvette. They killed our best people until the mouths no longer hold stones. When the hands are pure, red will be a color as good with good across good. Thank you so much. I'm now going to read a poem which highlights the crisis that we have with migration. And it is a crisis, no matter how you see the situation. So this is my feeling upon that situation. It's called Return. The river said, I'll protect you and give you shelter. So we migrants came. We traveled a long journey. The river carried us like familiar wind. Then we walked and dreamed of motionless water, dreamed of water that said, welcome, come, come, come. Then they arrived with hanging scowls, arrived on horses long reined with whips, ran down our bodies, trampled our faces, maimed our voices, made us turn our backs to water, told us water will not protect you here. This water does not belong to you. Your tears belong to you. That water is yours. That water should be plenty. Our tears scramble across miles. They get caught in many rivers, and our bodies keep drowning. We die in so many ways. They say we have no papers, no roots to dayfall here as we are being sent back. We see the water below us on the plain. It tells us to return. Think of tendrils pushing through the muddy bottom. We can't look away. And the next poem, thank you so much for the snaps. Thank you for the love in the chat too. Thank you. The next poem that I read is called Becoming American, and this is a poem about assimilation and the dangers of that assimilation and what happens when you do try to assimilate and you're always told no matter what, you are still different. So this is coming from the Puerto Rican perspective, trying to fit in to that society. Becoming American. We are first to cover our hearts with our hands, sing My Country 'Tis of Thee, and wear La Americana flag shorts. We swap Medalla for Budweiser, go to Shoney's and order the all-you-can-eat breakfast. No one cares if we waste food as long as we leave a decent tip and speak quietly. Leave La Islas Conversaciones at the kitchen table. We are encouraged to buy the biggest trucks and waste gas, take over the road and parking spaces. People make way when they see us. What kind of horsepower do you get? They admire strength. We are told not to ask those back home to send us pique and cafe. We should tamper our tongues and get the mild options. We go to Starbucks and get wild concoctions like unicorn berry frappuccino. Everything tastes too sweet, but this, they say, is the American way. Sugar, sugar, more sugar. Our co-workers go ahead and call us JL and AI because they butcher our real names, Jose, Luis, and Aprito Efrain. Everybody goes by some initials anyway, they claim. Look at JFK and MLK. Juanito is Buddy. Everyone here gets a nickname too. We are forgetting the quintos about the iguana thief. Now it's blah, blah, blah about parking as wide as bedroom, rows and rows of different types of water in stores, community meetings with 5 different types of cake and strawberry swirl ice cream. Everything is so sweet, but they give us plates and foil. It is the American way. Some signs say English only, no Spanish allowed. This is the look to keep our rolling R's to ourselves. Pronounce rice so that it doesn't sound like fries. Remember our soup or salad, not super salad. And delete the word focus from our vocabulary. It always sounds like fuck us. The waiter smiles when we leave a nice tip because tipping is the American way. Please come again. Take some nice mints. Here are the toothpicks, goodies on the way out. How nice, how American. The junk mail is bigger and brighter. The flyer from the newspaper dentist pops orange in chili pepper font with promises to make teeth white, white, white. The flyer comes with a coupon, a special, something on sale. How can it be any more American than that? And I think I have time for one more poem. Oh, thanks so much for the love in the chat, everybody. So I'm going to end on a positive note because there are so many negative things happening in the world right now. So for me, it's being outside, it's walking, it's the color green. So this is a reminder, whatever you need to do positively to try to have something, small moment of happiness, joy, just peace for yourself, to please take those moments for yourself. This is called G is for Greenhood. G is for greenhood, for spring sitting on my shoulders, then fastening to eye level, chantus, gladiolas, spinning, bowing in the distance, sense of green greening until earth gets it right, green that I can't keep to myself. Say, green, belongs within reach, like an extract of sepal outside of the flower body. You wouldn't recognize me when I cradle green, for fear of it becoming worn in many places. Even when morning lurks upside down, green, not this green, never hurts. As the turacos giving off green among drizzled leaves, as the grasshoppers that throw themselves against grass because it glistens, as wet green in my blood that hasn't forgotten spared green across homeland where your green overlaps with mine. And thank you so much again to everyone being here. Thank you again to Sandy and Kim. Thank you so much. And if you want to follow me, I hope you be part of my community. I'm on social media at D Smith Silva. I'll put it in the chat. Thank you so much.
Definitely put it in the chat. I think you're gonna get some followers today for sure. Debut collection in Inheritance of Drowning. Debut reading on Cultivating Voices. I hope, I know the book will not be your last. I hope this will not be the last time you're on with us on as well. Oh my gosh.
Whenever you want me back, please.
Okay, we're
Love
good.
to. Yeah, invite me, please. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's as good as done. It's as good as done. Thank you. Oh my gosh. That is Dorsia Smith Silva, everyone. What a smashing set. Again, the range, your energy, you're speaking truth to power from your perspective, from where you are. And it's a really unique perspective of where in one of the US territories, right? I mean, like that has its own constellation of politics right there with it. Um uh having of course survived and um worked toward how to begin to thrive again after Hurricane Maria, which of course so many of us witnessed on our screens and do pay attention to our our siblings when they are in crisis in that way, and particularly when governments are not stepping in and doing their what they are elected to do, and how do we fill in, and how, how do we how do we as people step in when the bodies that we're told are supposed to step in do not. And also, oh, the final poem, G is for Green Hood. You got a big thumbs up from D. Allen on Green Hood for real. So definitely take a look at everything in the chat. Thank you so much, Dorcia. I also put your
Thank
Poet Talk
you.
episode in the chat as well,
Oh, thank
folks.
you.
Yeah, my gosh, I'd like to be your student. I'd like to come down and get classes with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So welcome. All right, everybody. Well, again, Carla to D to Dorcia. How can it get any better? Well, it's going to because it's Mary Oishi next. Oh my gosh. And what I want to say about Mary Oishi, because I'm getting now a little choked up. Mary Oishi joined us for the very first time in February of 2021 here for our Laureate Love Fest that we had. I certainly remember it, Mary. And of course, Mary's been with us many, many times. Um, I I shared with her, she knows this. I shared this with Tanya Kohong. That the program that we did in May 16th of 2023 was, I think it's 2022, excuse me. In my mind, with Janice Mira Katani remains to me like the episode that I hold most in my heart, and I am in some ways the proudest of. I love all the programs, but when I think of that I always look to that program to me as like a powerful shining light, a powerful, powerful shining light. And of course, we lost Janice just only 2 months after. And then we were able to do the tribute to Janice. And Mary, I just always appreciate how you not only show up to read when we ask you to read, but you also are an amazing literary citizen and you show up to listen as well. So just thank you for all the ways that you have supported Cultivating Voices over the 4 years since we've been in conversation with each other. I'm going to give you now I'm going to give you now the official bio. And of course, there it is. Thank you so much. Mary Oishi, Albuquerque Poet Laureate Emerita from 2020 to 2022. And of course, yes, she joined us when she was in during her laureateship during the pandemic, very challenging. Is the author of her latest collection, Sidewalk Cruiseship from the University of New Mexico Press, editor of One Albuquerque, 100 Poets in the Library's anthology. This was her project, or her main project. She did so many as poet laureate of Albuquerque, which also was the winner of the New Mexico Arizona Book Award. Amazing to have a book award, to receive a book award for a laureateship project like that. Incredible. They often go to individual collections, if I'm not mistaken. So that's so special and so well deserved. I know many of the poets in the anthology. Thanks to you and to John, who's here, John Roshan, Jules Nyquist, and what a group down there. I'm sorry, I'm botching your bio here. Mary is also the co-author of Rock, Paper, Scissors from Swimming with Elephants, 2018, and the author of Spirit Birds, They Told Me from West End Press. She served as instructor for the Taos Writers Conference, poetry mentor for Kundiman, an Asian American Writers Organization, and adjunct faculty for the University of New Mexico. And her work is published and anthologized widely, including in translation, and her work is currently featured in Colia Needles 97 and Ista in Uruguay. Fantastic. Beautiful. Mary, just keep doing what you're doing. And I can't wait to hear the poems today from Sidewalk Cruise Ship. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Sandy and Kim and Don and all the poets who preceded me. They're hard acts to follow, but I really appreciated Carla and Dee and Dorsia hearing you for the first time. It's amazing. I will definitely get your book. Yes, I'm reading from Sidewalk Cruise Ship, which was published by UNM Press in April of 2024. It was the first time, all of the poems had to be from my laureateship, and it was the first time I wrote a tanka during that time because I didn't know that Janice Tonii, the former poet laureate of San Francisco and quite the amazing poet and activist, I didn't know that she was ill. And I had interviewed her on her 80th birthday in February of that year, and then featured on Cultivating Voices with her. And I had just written to her and asked if I could use one of her poems in a workshop on writing about trauma for the Taos Writers Conference. And she wrote back and said, yes, of course. And then she said, I love you at the end, which she had never said that in all the years that I've known her, and it was such an honor to get to know her. She was my kind of mentor, and before I got to know her. So tanka is a great way to express emotion. It predates haiku as a poetic form in Japan. And so when I found out, actually through Sandy, that she had passed, I just was really in shock and grief. And so this was the first tanka I ever wrote, and it precipitated a whole flood of them. So my book is the book is divided into 11 sections. Each started with a tanka. So this is the tanka I wrote for Janice. leaves not meant to fall before the autumn dries them, drains them of their green. Were you always golden then, to have left without a word? And this is one that I wrote for Wanda Cooper Jones, the mother of Ahmaud Arbery. Mother who never wanted this mountain to climb, holds the scene of him first time in her arms and climbs until Merrick Garland cries. I wrote a lot of poems in this book about Albuquerque, since it was my poet laureate book. And we had a big problem with police brutality and a lot of deaths in Albuquerque at the hands of police. So I had to write about that. And this is called Ghost Town. This town is coming like a ghost town was the song that kept singing in an Albuquerque adopted son's head, louder and too loud for the silence downtown as he walked deserted streets past boarded up windows. He took a few pictures, a truck turning left with no one in the crosswalk, or the sidewalks either for that matter, except the sun with a song in his head and one unhoused man curled up in his dirty blue blanket in an alcove, his few belongings nearby, a water bottle and a backpack in the corner near his head, already half ghost. One shop owner, windows intact, has painted on them the face of George Floyd. Black Lives Matter. Hashtag justice for George Floyd is the caption. It's more of a chant than a song, but yeah, I can see how your inside ears would sing, "This town is coming like a ghost town." Another picture on the strip, one lone lowrider, red lights in the grill. A few blocks down, a chopper all stretched out, yellow, chrome, and attitude. Other than that, not much sign of life. Albuquerque's adopted son is feeling deep despair. I doubt he ever took the Old Town Ghost Tour back when things were open all the time, but he wasn't a tourist. This is his home. Who needs a ghost tour? Ghosts in every neighborhood, hiding in the volcanoes, ghosts everywhere. In the university ghetto, an alcoholic found 3 days later in her back room dead. Now she's refusing to leave, lighting all the candles, turning on the stereo at 3 a.m. She's determined to get somebody's attention. La Llorona, you'll have to ask the ones born here about her. I can tell you since I arrived, one spirit runs down Zuni looking for an unlocked car to spend the night, looking over her shoulder for that one cop who turned off his lapel camera. Friends keep building her memorials by the wall at the trailer park near where she went down before Zuni bends back to Central. They keep building over and over, but they keep being torn down until they finally give up. This ghost, and not on the Old Town Ghost Tour, too far removed. Not the ghost with the black gloves, his los guantes negros, holding a shovel, wishing he had answered his daughter's calls so that no wellness turned death call had followed. Nor is the ghost on a hill near the manicured neighbors just under the mountain, the ones with the magnificent westward views. He wasn't well. He wasn't to be reasoned with. He didn't belong there, so the cops were called. This town is coming like a ghost town. Yes, it's a ghost town. Spirits that go back more than 300 years, long before this country ever breathed its name. Did you see that sign on your last picture? It says, "Some tears become flames." Don't despair, son. That's Albuquerque talking, and she damn well knows what she's talking about. And this is the title poem, which I hardly ever read, but people wonder what the heck is a sidewalk cruise ship? So I'll read it. It's just an old sofa placed by the street, free for the taking, to make way for a newer, more up-to-date style. It's trash. She's a native woman on the street a long time. It's a hard life, always moving, always vigilant. That stress wears you, you know. Park bench is hard metal. Mission cot must be rented by enduring righteous rebuke, promise of gold streets and mansions from people who could never do this, what she does every day, out on the hot asphalt all day long. They have no idea what it's like when your feet ache all the time at the bottom of much more gravity than your own weight. So beyond tired. Suddenly, life gifts her a big round sofa, a sidewalk cruise ship. She falls in half laughing, legs up over the fat sofa arm, feet floating, floating weightless over the concrete sea. Oh, I don't know. This seems so dated now, but it applies to any war. But of course, all of these were written by May of 2022 because that's when I had to hand in my manuscript. Pre-dawn sorority. I live by myself, but not alone. Woken by a mother's wail, half a world away. Her child buried in the rubble, in the well. She knows those shoes. I can't sleep. My dreams disturbed by a Mariupol grandma. Troubled, her fleeing daughter and her babies may not make it to the border. I'm troubled too. Get up and worry, steep a pot of tea at 2 a.m., sip slowly on hot tears, keep company with my sisters, pray that no more fall prey to brutality and madness. Pray I myself stay loving, not fall prey to hate that maddens. Slip my prayer past the missile trajectory to touch that one who's on the brink, the sister underground, who tries to keep her cat and children calm while inside trembling, to shore her up from my kindred heart, to let her know I have picked up the sound waves of her suffering, to offer one small respite, sipped from the quiet of my night, night by myself, but not alone. So during this time, of course, there was also the war on women. So I had to write about that as well. Still ongoing, getting worse, actually. Choice. Every birthing mother rides with death for a while, some a few minutes, some hours, some days, some beyond the point they can caress new life, leap from his chariot, or just themselves escape alone. Who dares to force her to stay aboard, no matter how child she is, how old, no matter how she got there, father, grandpa, violent stranger, or even if it's guaranteed she can't escape his gallop past the veil. None dare, none should, only she can choose. I actually didn't read the version that's in the book, I realize now. Okay. Kind and distant, green and glass. Now I have to show you something before I read this. Oh, maybe this is, no, maybe I can't read it because I don't have much time left. What do I have 5 minutes? Is that what I have?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, 5 minutes. That's okay. I'm not going to read that one then. Just so you know, I'm not all serious. This is a kind of funny tanka. I swear plenty, but I won't drop the F-bomb in my poem just to shock the stereotype of Asian women out of you. This is about motherhood, petals and rocks. Until she's blistered, until her hands bleed, a mother will pluck the flower from every stem, shake the blossoms from every blooming tree, lie down herself if that's what it takes to cushion the path her child walks. Still, they will choose to climb the rock wall. On this one, I know Sandy just went through the anniversary of her father's passing, so I'll read this for her. Easter morning. Told my dad some good news last night on the phone. He gave me that, hey, congratulating laugh he always does. It was so good to hear his voice, his laugh again, even if it was only in a dream. Oh. The crone in my young vision, to my surprise, was me. Her presence alone commanded respect, nothing less, and she had no regrets. Oh, she had made mistakes, but they turned out to be some of her best teachers. How can I become her? I cried, broken. I'm as far from her as a worm from the moon, and I was. Square your shoulders, was all she said. I'm decades rising, 3 words pulling the tide. Okay, and just as Dorsia, yeah, just as she said, I like to end with hope, so I'm going to read 2 hopeful poems to end it. When I sing of seeds. When I sing of seeds, mine is not a song of acorns and grains, kernels and cones, not when I sing of seeds. When I sing of seeds falling from trees, wrapped in fruit, floating lightly bearded in the breeze, in a bird's beak, a squirrel's cheek, a gardener's loving hand, I sing not of seeds, but of blossoms fragrant, bursting fuchsia and crimson and gold. I sing of majestic trees that join wind and earth and sun for 2,000 years when I sing of seeds. When I sing of seeds, I sing harvest, sing baskets of corn to be husked, sing peas to be shelled, shells to be cracked and released of their nut meats when I sing of seeds. When I sing of seeds, I sing roasting and baking and grilling, sing conversations around the table, silverware clanking, appetites satisfied when I sing of seeds. When I sing of seeds, I sing 30 years down the road, a child yet unborn crunching into an apple. When I sing of seeds, I sing of bouquets picked and handed to mothers with love in the year 2999. When I sing of seeds, my song rises verse after verse into all that is life, a swell of possibility when I sing of seeds. When I sing of seeds, I sing down 7 generations times 7 times 7. When I sing of seeds, my song never ends. My song never ends when I sing of seeds. It makes me think of Pete Seeger saying that we will all fight for our gardens. Okay, this last one was my encounter with the Navajo poet during the Poets in the Libraries series that I did. It's called Prophecy. And Navajos are really Diné people. A Diné poet, mother, multimedia artist told me today that according to the indigenous calendar, we're about to leave what she calls hell cycles, enter the cycle she and her people call heaven, when the Pleiades is directly overhead. It will get worse before it gets better, but by 2038, the mixed people, and look at us, we're all mixed, the mixed people will take us back to living with the earth again. So says the prophecy, she said, smiling down at her boy. So says the prophecy, rebeats my weary heart, weary of the cycles of pandemic hell, of conspiracy hell, of mass shootings hell, of history erasing hell, hell after hell, but so says the prophecy. So says the prophecy, carries me like a refrain, glowing, warming my winter heart. waiting for the mixed grandchild who will bring heaven to earth for me this year, no matter where the Pleiades appears on the night of her birth. Perhaps she will help take us back. Perhaps by 2038, she and all the mixed people of earth will usher in the heaven cycles. At least, so says the prophecy. Who am I to disbelieve? Thank you so much.
Wow, that is Mary Oishi, everyone. The book is Sidewalk, Cruise Ship. I have to admit that when you first were launching the book and bringing it out, I didn't, until I read the poem, I didn't know what a sidewalk cruise ship was, but I have a little thing in my heart for cruise ships, as most people know. So I was already drawn to the title of your book just by virtue of the cruise ship being in the title. Then, for you to have created such a body of work in such a short amount of time because of a really visionary project at the University of New Mexico Press, I love that they honor the city's, like the university is in the city of Albuquerque, and to honor the city's poet laureate by having a book published by the University of New Mexico Press. I wish that more presses, university presses in particular, would follow suit in that way. It would be so incredible to do that. So I really want to applaud how you were able to really divine what was going on during your laureateship, and to really bear witness to what was going on, not only in the city of Albuquerque, but also, globally and spiritually and um prismatically, that's one of my favorite words. And so it's a really incredible collection, particularly if you know the backstory of how it was asked to be created. And I think we talked about how it was pretty daunting to have to write a book that quickly. Like, I mean, I'm actually working on one that's going pretty quickly, but I'm really shocked by that. So, I really just respect that the work that you did as poet laureate, of course, and that you were able then to translate that into this really amazing collection, Sidewalk Cruise Ship. So, thank you, and of course, thank you for bringing Janice into the reading today.
It was my honor to appear with her here. And every other collection of mine took me about 7 years. Because you write a lot, but you don't want it all out there forever.
Right.
So to say, you have to have this to us in less than 2 years, I was like, oh my God.
It's kind of more daunting than the laureateship, like it's
And
incredible.
I had to do other things at the same time, including
Yeah.
editing that
Well, and
collection
editing that
100
prize-winning
times.
collection. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you, Mary. We'll see you very soon.
Thank
Folks, I want to thank Mary, and of course, I want to thank all of our readers today. Carla Cherry, Dee Allen, Dorsia Smith Silva, and Mary Oishi. I mean, I knew it was going to be a powerful constellation, and it still overwhelmed me. I still wasn't prepared for how powerful it was, and how really each of you brought in incredibly prismatic ways. I loved how you overlapped in your themes. We really were having a conversation about our stewardship of the earth and our stewardship of humanity, and how each of you brought so many other voices in with you, in with you to share with us. I was so struck by that. So, folks, before I make some final announcements, we're just a few minutes over. Would you unmute and show your appreciation for today's four absolutely stunning poets?
Fantastic work, everybody. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for your features.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful reading.
Thank you so much.
Great,
So wonderful.
great reading.
Fantastic.
And
Thank
poets,
you.
of course, we'll provide the chat for you so you can see. Oh, the comments were just incredible. Folks, in honor of Black History Month, I've been also just highlighting some books that I thought might be of use to all of us. And the first book I'm going to mention came out of Washington State. I was able to go to a reading. It came out a few years ago during the pandemic. It's called "Take a Stand Against Art Against Hate." It's incredibly relevant still, as we say, unfortunately. From Raven Chronicles, and again, an amazing journal in Washington State, been doing such incredible work for decades. And I wanted to mention that there's so many folks that come to Cultivating Voices that are in this anthology. And then I mentioned, Trayvon Martin got mentioned a number of times today. Um, I too have a poem dedicated to Trayvon Martin in Boats for Women. But this is a book that I got right before the pandemic of poetry and protest from Emmett Till to Trayvon Martin. It's an amazing book with poetry. It's edited and compiled by Philip Cushway and Michael War. It's got beautiful photos of the poets. Oh yeah, E.F. Miller, Harriet Mullen. I'm just going through uh Evie Shockley's in here. I mean, there's just Sonia Sanchez. Oh my gosh. I'm just going through, but it's in a really incredible anthology, as well as historical documentation along with pictures. It reminds me of what Dee was doing. And then finally, if you haven't seen, I think Joanne put in the bio, the best bio of the year that she read. Well, here it is. It's called Survival is a Promise, The Eternal Life of Audre Lorde, Alexis Pauline Gumbs. So here's some great reading for you. Well, everybody, once again, I want to thank our four poets today, Carla, Dee, Dorsia, and Mary, and what a new book showcase it was. And looking forward to next week, we have our wild card open mic, our final reading of February. We're going to have a guest host because I'm not able to join you next week because I will be on the West Coast performing in a poetry circus, believe it or not. I know. So if you're around Seattle and you want to come to the circus, it's later than Cultivating Voices. It's just I can't travel and do both. So I hope those of you in the Pacific Northwest or in the Seattle area might come out and see us at the Poetry Circus down in Pike Place Market. And our guest host next week will be from the beautiful country of Canada, David Bridges. So thank you. I hope you all will be able to join us next week for the wild card open mic. And again, looking forward to March. We've got another great new book showcase coming up. Incredible. We've got our Poets Focus. So just, keep doing everything you're doing. I'll end the program as I always do, everybody, with a reminder. When we founded Cultivating Voices, the founding quotation I used was from Muriel Rukeyser's The Life of Poetry, a book I obviously I love this book. I've marked it all up. It's falling apart, published by Paris Press. The opening and the introduction, the first line is, "In time of crisis, we summon up our strength." It's time. It's time, everyone. It's not the time to be silent, and it's time for us to summon up our strength. And how do we do that? Well, we take very good care of ourselves. Dorsia talked about that. And we take extremely good care of our beloveds, and each other. We look out for each other. And folks, we keep writing. We just keep writing. So until I see you next time, the beginning of March, first week of March, I hope you all will keep writing. Just keep on doing what you're doing. And I hope you'll be with us next week with Don, Kim, and David Bridges, and all of you on the open mic. I'm Sandy Yannone, host of Cultivating Voices Live Poetry. Take really good care this week, my friends. Be well.